public. And private as well doesn't mean private. We have something different, which is in between. So, first of all, public-private partnership means when these two main sectors, for the simplicity of the presentation, make it private to be private sector and public to be the government and associated industries with the government. When they come together and share to provide a service like education, that's called public-private partnership. It doesn't mean that they all bring money. It doesn't mean that they all bring equipment. One side may bring the fund, and other side may bring the expertise. It may provide the regulations. It may provide the review. So they can share in any other way possible. But when they come together, they provide a very good model for financing. What I knew before I started in government sector, it was we have only private and public. But I learned something else, which is called community-based industry. We have schools established by the community, by the diaspora, by the local people, and this, the schools are not for profit. They are contribution from our community. So it's not owned by someone, it's not for profit oriented, and it's not owned by the government. So I call it a semi-public or community-based institutions. They are the pillars and bulky of our education system, from the primary school to the secondary school. So when these three sectors come together, that's when we get the optimum collaboration between the whole sectors. In education, one of the key factors is the finance. I'm an auditor, and when I come to a company, the first thing I question is, what is the money? I don't care about the books. I don't care about the products. We have a motto which says, follow the money. Where did you get the money? Where the money is going to. So in every place, the question of finance is a vital. Do we have the finance for our education? Education is a very, very costly. I think you have already learned it for the last few days. It's a very, very costly. And the more you get up to the higher education, the more cost and the more investment you need. Who is the major contributor for our education sector? Is it the government? What the Minister of Planning said yesterday, the day before yesterday, was that federal government only allocated 8% of the budget to the education. The first states in Somalia, Somaliland, Puntland, they are just going from 4 to 6%. So the bulk of the money comes from the parents. They provide millions. When I was Minister of Education in Puntland, I learned for the primary only. For the schools that are registered with the ministry, the parents provide $14 million a year. That's all of the gifts from international dollars and NGO combined together. It's more than, it's less than that. So we can finance our education. Take underline. We can finance our education sector. Parents are the biggest. Why do we need private sector to be involved in the education? One of the main features of private sector is what? Efficiency. When I come to my office, first thing I was appointed for the CEO of Gulf Telecom. I do not talk to the employees. I don't run after the offices. I call it the second rank, the people coming under me. And I told them what I want from them. They will take care of the rest. So the people I have to go after are the ones immediate in the level of the management. So efficiency matters in the education sector. Technology and innovation, our industry, private industry, is well known. I have never touched money for the last 3 years. I'm using my mobile, buying a cup of tea, to buying a shirt. That never happens in any other way in the world. Even in Europe, they don't have that kind of service. My brother can send me $100 from United States, from Seattle, and I can get it in 1 hour in my pocket. Daralo, you get $100. This is amazing. Innovation, joint venture. When you want to develop new concepts, new ideas, bringing different industries together, they will bring expertise, they will bring money, they will share resources. That's the other thing. And the last, if you bring your private sector in the economy, they will provide the money that you need it. So, in a post-conflict country, Somalia, government cannot provide the proper funding. NGOs and international donors cannot provide the money we need. What can provide the money is our private sector. Somalis get $1.7, $1.8 billion from our diaspora. That is the whole money pledged in London and Brussels conference combined together. It's a huge money. There is a risk. If you give your education to private sector, there is a risk you have to be aware of. The main risk is private sector is what? Profit oriented. We smell profit. And that is one of the good things and bad things at the same time. So we have to have a mechanism to control them. The second thing is, if we combine private and public sector, government has still a role to play. If something gets wrong, what I'm going to say, government are the ones who are behind me. They drag me down, they provide legislations, they just, fire my employees. Government will take responsibility as well, instead of giving all the responsibilities to the private sector. There is certain industries which is very, very sensitive. You cannot leave them to the private sector, and that's what's happening now. All the universities will provide what? Accountants, human resources. I went to Sudan in 2014, and I met one of the main universities, and they just struck me with a question I was least expect to hear. They say, why do Somali students get upset when we enroll them in the maritime university or agriculture or veterinary? Imagine, this is the only 3 resources we have. So why our students are shunning off to go to this kind? Government has a role to play and to enforce that every university has to provide 1 or 2 or 3 of these schools. And at the end, infrastructure needs some sort of bigger from the private sector. If we leave to them, they will build a road like in Mogadishu, and when the first robes of rain comes out, the whole street will be wiped out. You have seen the news. Very beautiful street, asphalted, but after very few showers, it will all disappear. So we should be very, very aware, but there is nothing risky free. In this world, everything has a risk. We have to minimize it. You cannot afford the risk, but we can minimize it. From the experience and from the recent studies, we have learned that the private sector in Somalia is the largest employer. Almost 35% of all graduates in Somalia are employed by the private sector. This is a huge number. In every 3 graduates, 1 of them is hired by private sector. They need our support and they contribute to our economy. This is, at least, to be fair, it's done in Puntland, but I know it's general in Somalia, maybe Mogadishu even more. And we will see it when we interview the managers, including myself, how they respond for the graduates. Some people, they say, no, they don't get a job. No, they get a job. There is a plenty of job. The problem is, do our students have the skills which can give them the chance to be employed? I can't accept and take from me. I know what it takes. There is a lot of choice. There is a lot of opportunities. The problem is, are our students equipped with a kind of necessary skills to be employed? The case in Somalia, as I already said it, in any post-conflict society, we need to build our higher education. I'm very sorry to say that the Minister of the Education was fired because he said, we don't recognize any university. That was not a good point, actually. Because we have something. And I will not accept anyone to tell me we have nothing. We have something. But we are lacking in many things. We can build on it. Isn't it better to start from scratch? When I was appointed as a Minister of Education in Puntland, first thing I did was that I took the picture of first 4 ministers before me and I put in front of my office. The reason I did it is that when anyone come to me, he should know that I'm not the one who started from scratch. He knows there is a people, ministers, vice ministers, that who work for this to come up to this level. But if we say everything, this is the first time in 25 years we started this. That's not good. We have good basis and we can build on it. Almost all universities in Somalia, except for the Somali National University, is owned by private sector or by community sector. So this is also a huge industry. When I brought together, and I was part of the study which was assessing, we brought the private sector with the higher education institutions with the government. And when they come together, we tell them what's missing in our cooperation, what's need to be done. The first thing they mentioned was that there is no leadership. The minister cannot take the leadership because they are afraid the university will not accept it. University cannot fill the vacuum of the government. So there is no one who will take, the first step to be followed. For my understanding, the Minister of Education and Higher Education should be the one who takes the leadership. They are the one who has to take the steps. They don't need to open universities. They don't open to open colleges, but they can set the vision and set the motion for others to follow. And Somali National University, as you said, can be also a good example to be the benchmark of the others. The second thing is, people are not aware of what's called BBB, public-private partnership. So the higher institutions don't call the private sector unless they need money. I was receiving a lot of applications while I was in Golis, requests from the higher education, we need chairs, we need computers. They never ask us, what as an employer you are expecting from us? Which kind of industry you think it's necessary to be incorporated? Can you finance one of our departments? All they think about is, we need money for chairs, for computers, for buildings, and for a piece of land. The other thing is the absence of government role. I think, and I call from this auditorium, government has to bring these 2 sectors, or 3 sectors, if you expand it together, and there will be a lot of lessons. They will, benefit from each other. So the role of the government cannot be underestimated. There is no technical graduates. This is the last, the nail of what they used to call the last nail of the coffin. You are producing thousands, but they don't have skills. And I cannot employ them in my company. So there should be some sort of skills creation. Our country, the people like me who have been old enough, but there is a Professor Muhyiddin who was older than me. When I was in the second year secondary school, he was headmaster of one of the biggest schools in Mogadishu. We have many industry-linked universities. We were having accounting in Sweden, we were having maritime, we were having general polytechnic, we were having veterinary school. We were producing thousands of nurses. Do you remember near Digvar Hospital? We were enough and sufficient in providing nurses. So such kind of professionals and technical qualifications are required. There is a limited resources, yes, but you want to learn to get the good money until you learn to manage the small things. If you are very good to manage small money, you are able to manage bigger funds. No research and development. This is also, it was reiterated in this conference again and again and again. And someone even said, if any university doesn't have research department, it's just like what? Secondary school. I really like that it should be make some sort of options. There is no career counseling and placement. This is another problem. No one come to me from university and requested me to take internship for these students. 10 of them, 4 of them, 5 of them. There was students who graduate from Uganda, from Sudan, from other places who come to us and say we need 1 month, 2 months placement in any department, in technical department. But no university come to me and requested me any number to be included in the internship. Now, bringing these industries together, we'll get a good money, we'll get the participation of all stakeholders, we will overcome the problems of the skill shortage in the labor market. There was a very good study which is done by CARE International in Somalia, and it was about labor market in Somalia. I think everyone better to read that kind of study, and you will know the gap, the big gap between our market needs and our university graduates. I can simply say they are parallel. They cannot come together in any way. So unless we reduce that gap, we will not get a good job for our new graduates. I want to be very fast, don't worry. I talk too much, so I try to talk less today. The study we made, what is the market observation? 40% of the business leaders we interviewed, and this is good news. They confirmed to us that 80% of their staff, labor force, are the local graduates. 80% or even more are from, this is not a big number. Don't think this is thousands of numbers. But they are talking about if they have 100 employees, eight of them are local graduates. It doesn't mean each one works its own specialty. He may graduate in the human resources, and he may even working now in sales. He may graduate in accounting. He may work as the office administrator. Doesn't matter where it fits in the company. But at least they are employing the locals. I really like that kind of appreciation, and I have seen it in Golis. Everyone I talked to was graduate from the local universities, from south, west, east, north, doesn't matter. So this is at least a good news. Now, there is a challenge, and every place there is a challenge. We have to know it. There is a human and financial resource problems. Our government is very weak. Our institutions are not developed. We don't have very, industries that can fill the gap. So there is always kind of financial, and human problems. But I think the more we can bring these industries together, and that's the importance of public-private partnership. The more you bring it together, the more you get something there and something from here, and use the resource available for each companies. When I was appointed in Golis, the national exam for the secondary school last year, fourth year, and the primary 8th year was announced. I think there are some people who work with me here. Was used to be announced at the ministry. Big, boards whereby all students are nominated. Some people, they do, when they get failed, they just take everything and destroy it. What I did was that I talked to Golis, which I was the manager of Golis, COO, and tell them, look, can you pronounce the examination? And what all you need is what? Just a code. #299, and then *299#. And then you follow *299* the student's enrollment number, and then you make it, and you get the result at your mobile. I think the ministers, my successor was here yesterday and today. It's still the system goes on. You don't need to call the ministry. All you need is to use your mobile and get the message for your son and for your daughter. This is nothing free for the ministry. We do not pay one penny for that service. And for the company, all they need is just to expand their timing for the message, because it takes very huge base. So they make it results announced mainly at the midnight, so it will be available at the daytime. So it costs nothing for the company, it costs nothing for the ministry, and everyone is happy. The other thing is weak admission procedures. This is another weakness, and we have seen all this. I think I don't want to repeat it again and again. It was already developed. I went to Uganda in 2013, and there was 1,200 Somali students at that time. But 70% was in art universities. 70% was in universities. There was even less than 5% in pure technical. Sudan was far better. Sudan was 6,000 students from different levels, and they were doing amazing. I like to thank, if he's around, Dr. Kamil Ubaid. Is he here? He's also missing in action. Don't worry, we will find him now. They provided in every field. And even they were complaining why Somalis are not going to the technical industries. I like to thank Sudan for that, because they absorbed that kind of number. If I say you, how many of you graduated from Sudan in this hall? You see it? This is the result of that job. Another problem is the language, which already mentioned. We need, at the bottom line, we need graduates with skills. Private sector, they complain. And I know we have a very limited resources, and we have to allocate where I can get the best profits, where I can make the highest money. But if we sit together, work together, we can come up with an amicable, acceptable, agreed upon procedure whereby we use our small resources. Current business needs vocational skills more than they need university education. Why every college and every university has to have the name university? Is it necessary to have a university name? No. You can have a college. MIT is what? MIT is what? It provides PhD, right? They say, no, if we make it not university, no one will come to us. That's not true. That's not true. You don't need to be university to provide higher education. And you don't need to have the name university to provide master's and doctorate degree. I think what we need now is college level, whereby 50% or 60% will be in technical side and 40% will be in the artist or academic side. What's missing now? The main thing missing, and I really like it for those who were supposed in the policy level to be around, at least I see Muhammad Abdul Qadir, the former DG of the Ministry of Education. Is there anyone from Ministry of Education here? Anyone? No one. That's pity. I'm really sorry to say it. They were supposed to listen what's happening here. Government role should be there. They have to formulate what's called Higher Education Commission. They don't need to own university. They don't need to own college. They don't need to own secondaries. They need to regulate. That's the role of the government. And I think this will be shared by the participants of the conference at the end for the recommendations. Government to be there for the regulation. Standardization, this is another thing. Someone said today, if you leave one university because of something happening in somewhere, you cannot change other university. Is that right? I don't know. But someone said today, I don't know who that person was, this is because of the standardization. You are a BA in the first year. Then you have accounting. In accounting, then you have financial accounting. Then you have cost accounting. Do you have governmental accounting? Do you have managerial accounting? Do you have intermediate accounting? There's a lot of course to cover. So if you don't cover that, this other university may not accept you. There should be some sort of standardization for the same faculty. The other thing is we have to protect local universities. This is all something missing. You can't say our universities are rubbish and nothing. They are not. Wallahi, they are not. They are people who are trying their best, putting their money, their energy, their timing. If they don't reach the level we want, that doesn't insult them or doesn't make them incompetent. So we have to appreciate them, but we have to tell them, look, you have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, but you are missing 5 and 6 and 7, 8 and 9. If I tell you this cup, you know, there is positive things and negative things. If you have a cup of water half full, someone will say this cup is half empty. Another may say this cup is half full. One is positive and one is what? Negative. Let's not say they are nothing. They provide junkies. They don't train anyone. They don't have skills. That's not fair. That's not fair. We have to tell them, guys, you are that level, but you are missing all these points. So we encourage them to develop and we encourage them to change. Another thing is better utilization of foreign scholarships. I think the professor from Bosnia mentioned it today. Somalis are very qualified. I know it. And you know, anyone who have been any place in the world will know those Somali students, when they go abroad and they compete well. But the problem is, any of good students, they are kept there. There are teachers from Malaysia, you know, instead of coming back here, they are kept there. This is very difficult issue. Even the nurses, do you know one of the main contractors of South African nurses is UK? And you know, South Africa is complaining, we are training them and you are taking them. Because they are provided better prospects, better salaries, better remunerations, you know, nationalities, many other things. So this, I think you have seen the diagram. I don't want to repeat it again and again. We have to appreciate our universities. We have to support them, and we have to benefit from scholarships. And the last point is, we have to advocate for the higher education institutions. Please take from here. Always, never, ever give a report in any place in the world. Don't say we are in shambles. Say we are in good shape, we are trying our best, but we are missing more than we have it. Always make positive. Don't underestimate. Advocate for these universities to be supported. Try to be always positive for education, regardless of education is always what? It's always something good. They say, al-ulama say, sixirka ka wanaagsan jahilnimada, soo ma? Sixirku waa xaaraan, soo ma? Sixirku waa xaaraan. Witchcraft is a crime in Islam. But they say sihr is better than being ignorant. So at least our students are learning something. So always support and advocate for our higher institutions. Now, we need a win-win situation. The private sector cannot win alone. The government cannot win alone. The institutions cannot win alone. We need some sort of equilibrium where all of us become winners. Let's share ideas and partnerships. Some people think if you talk to the private sector, you need money. No. Sometimes you need ideas. Sometimes you need partnership. Sometimes you need just someone to listen to you. Sometimes you need someone who appreciates you. So don't afraid of any time one of the higher education comes to your office, he's looking for money. I don't have that budget now. Let's share ideas and become partnership. The other thing is standardization and regulation. Private sector must have confidence in our own system. You have to convince me. I just want to go back from politics to the private sector. That's what I'm planning to go. Convincing me that you are giving me some sort of qualified people. They will enhance my, company. They will provide more legitimacy. They will provide more qualifications. We have to convince each other. And what we have found is, in this, study, one of the main requirements of many companies is IT skills. This is much required. In Golis, we did have the biggest department in the ITC. And that's where they develop the systems. That's where they check everything. That's where they track all payments. That's where they check the system Others bring it to us. Sometimes international partners cannot fix it, but our own data people can fix it. So, ICT, general polytechnic skills. Financial management skills. Combination of management and finance. It's not just finance, it's not management. Combination of the two. This is the main sought industries. Other industries, business and management, which already I mentioned, finance and accounting, Islamic finance. You know, most of our hawala houses, let's say our banks, local banks, I really like our banks. Very swift, you know, very quick and very professional. What they are going is to apply Islamic facilities in Murabaha, in Mudaraba, we have to have some people who are qualified for that industry. You can't bring all over there from the international market. It's very costly and very difficult. But we have to get some people who are also qualified for banking and Islamic finance. Information technology, engineering, and telecommunication. By the way, we are top in Africa in telecommunication. And I'll give you one small example. I don't have time yet. I was just driving in my car with my driver, and I saw someone come from the Nomad having camel milk in his hand. He looked someone from the area, and I didn't have a cash. So I told him, this is good milk, I will take from you, but do you know someone from the next village where I left the money to you? He is actually, even his dress looks like he have been away from city for some time. And he told mother, do you have a Sahel service? I said, yes. He said, send me the money now. And I took his number. Wallahi, this is fact. I took his number. It was $4. Send it to him. And he just checked it. I got it. Thank you very much. This is the least place I was expected someone to have a mobile with a Sahel service, with a MMT service. Because you know, in MMT, you need more than having details. They have to have your picture to give you the service. So our people we are top in the telecommunications. No African country can beat us. You cannot tell me otherwise. We are very good, the cheapest in the world. When some of my friends call me from the States, they call me, Ali, can you just please call us back? It's cheaper on your side. Call us back. and that's very good. That is very good. There is a general recommendations, which I want to close for the session. And these are, let's make the awareness of BBB. People are not aware of. Let's start to bring industries. Let's make it something known by bringing pooling resources. That's what we call it. Pooling resources. Then we get some sort of things done. So let's make awareness for that. Let's make our education responsive to the market assessment. Let's provide the regulations. Let's bolster our higher education commitment. And let's have a long-term vision for our higher education, 5 years, 3 years, 10 years, and beyond. So always having kind of vision helps even universities to go along with the ministry, to go along with the national planning, development plan and other things. There is 4 industries or 5 industries that's missing in action. Like I was there at the morning. Agriculture. We have the biggest, I think Dr. Abdi was a former graduate and also instructor of and working for the agriculture sector. It was one of the biggest departments in our Somali National University. Fisheries. Is it possible for a country with 3,300 and more kilometers of the coastal not to have one single fishery school? It's really, we have not to tell that information to anyone. And you know, our coastal line is one of the most clean and most beautiful. We have to have it. Veterinary. We have 50 million livestock in Somalia. 50 million. Maybe it's only for the goats and sheep, 50 million. This is the bulk of the foreign currency for Somalia. It comes from the livestock. We don't have 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or 6 universities. This is not possible. and energy and geology. Our energy is one of the costliest. How much is Mogadishu? I think it's almost $0.50, right? Another part of Somali is $1 per kilowatt. You cannot have a small industry. You cannot even have 3 fridges or displays to use that kind of cost of electricity. We need to use the weather, the sun. We have abundant natural, God-given resources to use it. So these industries should be developed. The final recommendation is, and I want to give this for the university attendances, we have to have self-regulation or bear regulation, bear assessment. In auditories, I think we have something called peer review. Someone with the same profession, with the same level, will check my work and say, Ali, at your level, you are doing bad, you are doing well, you are doing medium, you are doing moderate. So don't afraid for other universities. Don't afraid for them. They will not steal your curriculum. Come together and each one assess what's missing from other side. And from government side, we have to have higher education commission. Thank you very much for listening, and sorry for wasting your time.
We've really had quite interesting sessions today, and I think one of the things that we noticed is that there's a Somali mama, I think, so I think one person cannot work alone, so that means private and public need to work together. The next session is going to be by Faduma Ali Nuruddin, and she'll be speaking on empowerment or imposition. So it's a question, and she it's a dilemmas of women in post-conflict societies. So looking forward to that. Welcome, Faduma.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. It seems that Jama'at Ummah, they left the best topic to the last, so that Ragga Somali the third annual conference. The topic that I'm going to speak about will be empowerment of or imposition, dilemmas of women in post-conflict societies. I'm not an expert in this field. I came from a technology background, and I'm currently a business consultant. It took me a while, actually, to decide and come to this conference, because I kept on asking myself, okay, so there are so many people in technology, lots of people will be talking about engineering, health, and what am I going to add? And why am I going to live where I stay comfortably and come and deliver a speech? I'm not a PhD holder. I might not be good in research. So it took me really a while to decide the topic. I applied very late. Thank you so much, Dr. Abdul Razak. I didn't know that you're in post-conflict. You're specialized in this area. So what I did was a literature review with a very particular point in mind that I really want to deliver. And I hope that I'll get the message across clearly and very right. But before I start, I just want to share with you my experience, telling everybody about my topic. When everybody asks me, so what are you going to do? I say, women empowerment. They look back at me again. And that look isn't, that comfortable kind of like a smile or something. A few seconds ago, someone asked me, showed me the paper and said, Madiga Mia. I ever people saying, kuwa feminist kana nagu soo biiray conference-ka sanadkan. Really? I was speaking to a very senior person. You're good where you are. Now, bear in mind, I don't explain myself. I don't say the objective of my presentation. I just tell them my topic. Very simple. Short story. wiilaa guursaday hooyadiisi aabihiisu la degay guriga xaaskiisa markay dhashay gabadhii wuu caawinaa shaqadii fasax ka soo qaatay guriguu fadhiistay cunug yar buu la xanaanaynaa for quite some time aabihiisaa u yeeray wuxuu yidhi aabba wax ma kuu sheegaa guriga noogu bax waayo hooyaad iga halaynaysaa seriously I can assure you I did not say the objective of my presentation to anyone. قبلها جامعة أمضة فهذا ما حد كهد ليس what's your topic women empowerment وكل جرنا I don't know why like that's the body language وكل جرنا you know we support you I don't know where the anger is coming from but anyways to begin with I'm not a feminist I'm not heading to that direction so every man in this room can sit back and relax you don't need to attack me. So, over the years, the perception of women in post-conflict societies was that they are victim, that they are part of those who are severely suffering from whatever happened during conflict time. It was only in 2000, in year 2000, in particularly October, that the UN Security Council decided to pass a resolution saying that, well, you know, women can be or should be part of peace and reconciliation, development, and so on. And that resolution was 1325. Now, to recognize that women has a vital part of participation in emerging countries, it was a very good thing. But when I did my literature review, to be honest, I was quite surprised because all these years, in only 2000, that resolution came up. I was like, okay, interesting. So what we're going to do is, I'll share with you some of the countries who have been through what we have been through and who have face difficulties and challenges. And I want us to draw together a conclusion and agree on a few things before I leave the stage. Now, if you look at the picture, you can see at a very early stage, women in post-conflict societies, they carry a very heavy role. They are the mothers, sometimes the breadwinners, and sometimes they don't have men in their households, so they start from a very, very young age. And this is the case of many societies of post-conflict. Now, let's look at Sierra Leone. So I had more countries, but I, shrink it into 3 only, Africa, Europe, and Asia. So in Sierra Leone, they used to have the worst, according to researchers, they are the worst when it comes to gender inequality. And it has been believed that because they were following, they severely suffered from being pushed. So the dilemmas that they had was, one, if you are from Sierra Leone, and if you're female, you're not allowed, or by law, you cannot get your property under your name. Then, it goes even beyond. For them, after conflict, they decide that the kids belongs to the husband, and the status and the right of a female or a wife is based on a contract. In another word, if you are marrying a man and he wants to put you in a certain position, your status will be, based on whatever is written in that contract. So, what path they have taken after their conflict? They've tried to go into the empowerment. Now remember, my topic is a question. Is it empowerment or imposement? So in the case of Sierra Leone, they went into the direction of empowerment. And they tried to, help women come into leading positions and into different sectors. Now, who was their role model? When you speak about empowerment, who would you look up to? The neighboring country in 2005 elected the first president, the first female president in 2005, that was Liberia. So don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that we will have a Somali president soon, but then the people from Sierra Leone looked up to a role model to follow, and their path was empowerment. Now, if we go to Bosnia, I'm not sure whether you know that one of our speakers who spoke about South Africa was a Bosnian, the first guy who presented, or second guy who presented today. In Bosnia, their dilemmas were slightly different. Because of war, they've lost 250,000 people. Majority of them used to be male in production age. People were moved around, they left their cities. So their dilemma was basically one, social discrimination. For them, after post-conflict, they had this kind of, there were no women empowerment basically. So even if the woman goes to the market and she contributes to the society, to the family, and to the society, she's not a decision maker. She cannot make a decision, even for her own house. She can't. Now, when they looked back and did furthermore researches, they found out that the rate of female employment in Bosnia after the conflict was way lower than men. Whether it was directly or indirectly influenced, but this is the research and this is the numbers, the statistics that they came up with. So, which path Bosnia took? Bosnia did not want to do, they didn't want to impose their, existence in the society, or they didn't want to impose their rights. For them, their immediate after conflict was to see where their men were, where the son was, where the husband, because everybody was dead and they were missing and so on. And gradually they came to the stage of empowerment. So in Sierra Leone, you cannot own a property, and your status goes to your contract. In Bosnia, even if you bring money to the house, you're not a decision maker, and you will not, you will not fairly get employed. Okay, let's move to Asia. Let's look into Nepal. Nepal also suffered from conflicts, but women were dragged even to be soldiers. In 2006, they came out of that, right? And they set a law or an act that says Gender Equality Act. The interesting thing was, when they were writing the act and they were discussing that act, women were not allowed to be participated. They're not allowed to enter and discuss the law. But the law was passed, and from there, if you look into researches, you'll see the graph goes up, and the Nepalian women's made a high contribution into the society. Now, why am I bringing stories of countries who have went through what we have went through? Because I didn't want to write recommendations. Again, I believe that I'm not in position or have the right knowledge to give recommendations. But the reasons that I've chose 3 different countries from 3 different continents is to tell Somali women that we are okay. We're not like people in Sierra Leone. You buy a property today, you will own it. we are not like what happened in Bosnia. We contribute or we don't contribute. We still control the money of our husbands or fathers or brothers, whoever. And we were never pushed to be soldiers, and we were never excluded. When people in our government discuss our rights, they never said, okay, you know, you step out of the room and, you know, we're discussing an act about gender. So when you read about women empowerment, there are two things that I want to talk about. One goes to the Somalian universities, the education. If I write Somali women dilemma or Somali dilemma or Somali, you know, if I just change my topic and I say the dilemma of women in post-conflict Somalia, almost nobody have thought of it, almost nobody have wrote about it. We have no data. I don't know what are the issues or the difficulties are Somali women facing in Somalia after the conflict. We don't know. I don't want to say, oh, waxay tiri, wuxuu yiri, waxaa la arkay, way yeeleen, way suubinay. No. This is a university level, so we need research. We need people to go out there. For me to come up with, you know, it's less than 10 presentations. I had to read 30 articles. And you know what I had in mind? I thought maybe one of those professors will pick up the topic and say, you know, let's do it. One of the students from the University of Ummah will be specialized in political science and say, hey, I like the topic. So I can tell them, you know what, this is the literature review. These are the 30 articles. This is what I understood. We need to really step up and say, let's do research that are related to our societies. Now, when we put that, when we go out there, when we collect data, all right, we do analysis, then we can come up with recommendations. And at the same time, we can tell the world, hey, you know what, we're not that bad. We're not way behind. People always talk about telecommunications and how good we are and blah, 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 blah. But have you ever thought about it and say, no, you know, we are very, very good in other areas. We don't look at it from that angle. We should. All right. I was really impressed when the professor Jurile said, you know, again, I'll repeat that. A university without a research is just like a high school. And if you are going to do a research, let's not do copy-paste. Let's not do things that other people have done. Let's do things that are related to us. You may not understand when you do a research, it's not because you want to graduate from master or PhD or whatever. I always make a joke. People ask me, why don't you do a PhD? I say, it's a permanent head damage. I don't want to do a PhD. But the output of your PhD and your master's, if you put it in hand of the right people, people will be able to act on it. I'm sure if we ask the Minister of Women today in Somalia, what are the issues of Somali women, she will start making assumptions. Or he will start making assumptions. Similar to the people, when I tell them my topic, they look at me in a different way, you know? Adigamia. As a researcher or university level, you should not assume. Assumptions should be out of the window. You should have facts, numbers, analysis. You come back with results, and then you pass it to the right people. You have a huge opportunity. Now, this is the first point. So we need to know the role of Somali women in setting priorities, developing policies, allocating budgets, strengthening legal frameworks, reforming security sectors. These are the topics, Dr. Abdulrazak, we want to see research about Somali women. We don't want to talk about, you know, topics like the regular topics that comes, women health, taking care of babies. No. If we really want to empower women, we need those girls sitting in this room to pick up one of these topics and understand internally first that you are way better than others. You understand where you stand today, and then how you can contribute back. So if you're doing a legal framework for Somali society, then you know this is an indirect way of empowering women. We don't need to push and say, okay, when I see ladies who are very interested in politics, they tell me, you know, the conversations that I hear over here is like, they're not giving us a chance. You know, it has to be 30% women participation, 25, I don't know. And they complain and complain and complain. I have to be looking, okay, what did you do for them to recognize you? Did you play the game right as they play? So one is you need to empower yourself with knowledge, skills, and then learn how to sell yourself. Now, I understand there might be barriers in terms of culture, societies. Well, I am a Somali girl as well. I definitely have a Somali father, not a Malaysian as some assume. And I have a brother who's Somali. But again, if I put these barriers or cultural whatever, I wouldn't be standing here with you today. So you need to learn how to sell yourself. And then, let's say you have the skills, you have the knowledge, you know how to sell yourself, but you don't know how to play the game right, you're out of the competition. I don't think there is a Somali politician, very few, who came to power just because they are capable. People use money. We don't have wealthy Somali women. Do we? How many? How many? Are they as famous as Hermood or Dahabshil? Now this is what I'm talking about. We need to come out. Hold on. We need to come out and say, yeah. Okay, fair enough. No. Look, what I'm trying to say here is very simple. When they have skills, they have the knowledge, they know how to sell themselves, they need to know how to play the game right. Money is not the only component. I agree with you. But they need to step up and be part of those that we could just... I'm a business consultant. I have no role model of a Somali woman. I can say, she's owning this particular entity. Yes, I know a lot of NGOs. I know so many of them who are wealthy and they hide. I know Somali women who are backing up foreign governments from their own monies. I know these examples. But are they a role model to the rest who are within the community? No. The role models are those who stand in social media, those who are on TV, and all they know is ala'al. وأنا لسوبي وأنا لي position مقدم. No. We need to come up and say, you know, this is what, you know, we need to play a good model. So the next thing is that we need to really know, despite all of these cultural differences, whether to empower or whether to impose, the answer is not to Fatma or to anyone here, unless if we want to go out for a coffee or something, yes. But what I want to see is valid research papers that come up with numbers that tell us what are our issues, so that we stand up and say, okay, these are the issues, how we can come up, how we solve it. All right? Thank you so much for listening. I hope that it's a very short and sweet.
Thank you very much, Fadumo. What I wanted to request right now is that we're going to break for lunch and prayers as well. But before we do that, there's a couple of aspects. We want to do a Q&A with the panelists, the keynote speakers. So what I want to do is, when we come back from lunch, I'll request everyone to please be back on time at 2:30, so that we can sit down with the panelists. There's several other people who've requested that they really want to ask questions. So if we can do that, I'll truly appreciate that. But thank you very much. Thank you.